Hey, library listeners. Ashton, James's girlfriend here. I'm sorry for the interruption, but I need to do some shameless self-promotion. If you're a fan of the antics on the library and thought to yourself, man, I wish they talked about horror movies, then swing on by to our brand new podcast, Room 237, brought to you by JumperScape Audio. A best-in-class podcast for first reactions and reviews of horror films, both old and new, with some wacky opinions, thought-out analysis, and plenty of stupidity to go around. Tune in starting February 23rd on all platforms you enjoy your podcasts on.
The Halo universe is filled with wonder, mystery, and fascinating discoveries around every corner. With so much to explore, four friends decided it was about time that they booted up their consoles and discussed this universe that has grabbed their attention since childhood. JumperScape Audio kindly welcomes you to join them in the library.
Hello everybody, welcome to the library, the show where we talk about Halo lore, and today we decided that we simply are not good enough to talk about Halo lore today, because today we've brought in one of the originators, the creators, the authors. Mr. Troy Denning has joined us on the show today. Woohoo! Yeah. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing just great, thanks.
Fantastic.
Nice to be here.
It's our honor. It's our pleasure to have you on the show.
Oh yeah, thank you for coming in.
Yeah, absolutely. For me and James, your work. He's right here, by the way. Your work has been utterly fantastic. It's been incredible. Me especially. I've looked into all of the work that you've done. One of our old hosts, Bryant, he went through all of your Star Wars novels. He went through all of that stuff. Your work has resonated through our friend group quite a bit, and so it is nothing less than an utter pleasure to have you join us today. Just want to make that clear.
Most definitely.
Yes.
I am a terrible reader.
Good to be here.
It's so hard to lock me into a book, and I got through Shadows of Reach and Outcasts like it was. I felt like I was watching a movie in my brain. How it's supposed to feel when you read a book, and it's hard for me to do.
That's great to hear.
Yeah, it's been utterly fantastic to go through, especially Outcasts. I'm excited to talk about that today because there's quite a bit. There's some questions, there's some curiosities, but also just great appreciation to be given, because I would think that in this story that you've written, this is a rather interesting time to be writing a novel for a Halo franchise, because you're kind of filling in this gap that a lot of fans are currently trying to explore a whole lot more. And so you have quite a challenging task of writing a novel that answers some of the questions that some of the fans have, but also tell an interesting, unique story, especially with one of the best characters that Halo has ever introduced, the Arbiter, Thelvadam. So we have plenty of things to go over with that. First and foremost, though, I kind of want to just sort of talk about you in Halo, if that's cool with you.
Sure.
All right, sweet. Now, I know that your work goes back fairly far, way before Halo, at the very least, because some of the stuff that I've read that I honestly hadn't realized that you wrote it up until I was there at HCS, and you were talking about it, that you had written things like Waterdeep way back. You'd written quite a few of these Star Wars novels, and now I don't want to butcher it. What was it that you said that you're known for with the Star Wars novels? Like you were the Grim Reaper of Star Wars or something?
Yeah. Some fans actually made a hat for me one time that said "Solo Killer."
That's awesome.
Killed and
oh, that's
Jason
lovely.
Solo. And I was going to wear it all the time. But my wife pointed out that if you don't know Star Wars, people are going to think you're a little bit off balance. So, so I'm known for being hard on solos.
That's so fun.
I mean, you're the original solo killer then. I'm sure.
Oh yeah. The OG.
Yeah.
So when you joined up with Halo, you signed on first with Halo Last Light, right? Yeah, it's a fantastic. That is a story I have. Okay, so here's the thing. I'm currently going through all of the novels with a book club that's hosted by our community. And because of that, I was about halfway through all of the novels that currently exist, but I had to stop to join in on the book club, so I had time. So I had gotten through Shadows of Reach, Outcasts, Oblivion, Silent Storm, but I didn't get to the ferrets. And so I feel like I've missed something there, because everyone in the book club, there's one in particular, I'll call him out because he'll be happy about it. One guy in particular, a guy by the name of Guyver, he has read through the ferrets multiple times and constantly references it as one of his favorite stories that's been told, especially going off of the stories that came off of Ghosts of Onyx. That sort of stuff was utterly fascinating to hear about, even as someone like me who hasn't gotten the joy of reading it yet. But in relation to your writing specifically, I wanted to know when that all started. When you got the opportunity to write for Halo, and was it something that you had initiated, or was this something that 343 reached out to you and said, we need this guy writing for us?
It was just a matter of being in the right place at the right time, as so much of life is. I had been called out to Seattle for Wizards of the Coast to work on a project with them. And of course, I go way back with the TSR crowd. I started work there in 1981.
Mm-hmm.
And after we had our meetings at WotC, we were a couple of friends and I, since I was in my early 20s, and we went out one night just to have some drinks and talk and catch up. And a friend of mine who was a game designer, both at WotC and I think he's at Amazon now. Anyway, he had been approached by Ed Schlesinger, the editor for Halo, to work on some Halo books. And I said, oh, wow, Halo, that's really, I'd been reading some Halo books because Karen Travis had written some.
Yeah.
And I'd worked with her in Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, oh, Halo, that sounds really exciting. That's a great property. And he said, yeah, unfortunately, I can't do them because they had a non-compete clause with the people he was going to go to work for. So I figured that was the end of that. And then a couple of weeks later, I get an email from Ed saying, hey, I understand you like Halo. You want to write some books?
Can't get more straightforward.
That's kind of how I got involved with that writing. So,
that's lovely.
Just, having to mention to a friend that I thought it was a kind of neat property. And I hadn't come into Halo through the gaming aspect. I have one of those personalities where if I sit down and start to game, I don't stop for 2 weeks. My wife comes down and says, are you still alive? So I don't do a lot of video. So I hadn't been doing any Halo video gaming. I just kind of come into the world through Karen's books and started reading the lore,
mm-hmm.
the novels, and enjoying them. And so that's when Ed called me up and sent me an email and said, would you like to write some? And I happened to be kind of in a transition period. And I thought, yeah, sure, we'll give it a try.
That's so cool.
I
love that.
We set it up and yeah.
Well, last time we spoke was oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, that was it.
Okay. My bad. I'm sorry. There's a slight connection thing. So way back when we first chatted, we chatted all the way back at HCS, and I kind of wanted to know about how your experience was there. Was that your first time interacting with Halo fans in person, or was that just another step into a nerdy crowd for you to talk to?
Well, it was my third time at a Halo specific event. I'd gone to 2 of the outposts.
Which ones did you go to?
The Halo outposts that they did a couple of. I went to Anaheim and I guess it was Chicago.
We were in Chicago.
That's why I asked. We were at me, Austin, and James were at the one in Chicago.
Yep.
So I went to those first time. Those are the first 2, and they were pretty exciting. I really enjoyed them. I really enjoyed getting to know the fans because I was, I had an impression of the Halo fan as being, kind of a typical gamer geek guy who tends to, spend all of his time alone at his computer interacting with the other people that are, playing Halo with him. But what I was really surprised at is the families that I saw there. Like her grandmother and her grandson who had connected over Halo. A lot of people who, that was how they kind of connected with each other. So, I was really impressed with what a family sport it was.
No, it gets loud.
Golf has nothing on Halo, I'll tell you.
James is our resident golf guy.
Yeah, I haven't golfed in 2 years though.
I
don't have anyone to go with me. I don't like golfing alone. I mean, it's peaceful, but can't brag about my score by myself.
I go to Top Golf and manage to embarrass myself, let alone actual golfing.
I've golfed once in my lifetime, so.
Yeah, our world is gaming for the most part. Which on that subject, actually, you had mentioned before that you were still going through or you had just finished Halo 5 Guardians. Was that correct?
I had finished it. Shortly after it came out.
Okay.
So
I think you were playing it again then. I don't remember what it was.
Yeah, but I haven't played it recently for a while. I haven't updated my Xbox for a while. We just got fiber optic internet out where I live.
Yeah.
So before that, it used to take me like 18, 20 hours to update my Xbox.
Jeez.
So
oh my gosh.
It, and then I play all the games, the latest release. And then it would be like, I'd sit down to play a game and I'm waiting 2 hours for the Xbox to update. And it was like, oh my God. I don't have that kind of time.
Yeah, it sounds like my connection.
But so I haven't played anything since I haven't played Infinite yet.
Oh, okay.
For example, but I have, it was the last one I actually played. But I've got to dig out the Xbox. My problem now is my TV that I used to play it on, it got broken. It just wore out. So now I have to go get a TV that my wife isn't using to play. To my Halo Xbox for 2 weeks. So
I love that.
So that I can disappear into my alternate world.
I mean, in the alternate world,
I'm working.
I mean, that is true. I mean, it's not just a game for you. This is straight up a universe you've contributed to, which was actually something that I wanted to sort of touch on a little bit. With your works, is it at all like? Would you say it would be more fun and or difficult to write an original work versus adding to a universe that's already established? Because I would imagine that adding to a universe would be the most nerve-wracking thing in the world because you would have to match so many things, match so much information.
I think it depends on what kind of writer you are and how much confidence you have. If you don't have a lot of confidence when you come in to write for a tie-in world, there's so many other people that have to have input into what you're doing. And, when you're a writer, you're laying your guts out on the table for everybody to have a look at. And if you're not used to that process and you're not confident in what you're doing, when they start saying, oh, that appendix looks like it's swollen and way too messy, or you've got an inflamed pancreas, then you get a little bit offended and you can't take it. There's a lot of writers that don't write tie-in because of that. But what I really love about it is the collaboration. I mean, when I sit down to write a Halo novel, I will, so they'll give me some parameters, and I'll write up a list of what I think I want to do, and then we'll send it off to Ed and then to Jeff, and it used to be Jeremy, now it's Alex. They'll take a look at it, and then they'll say, oh yeah, this is cool, how about we add this kind of thing. And usually what they're adding and suggesting is really, it's another, it just lifts the story up another level. And you look at it and say, oh yeah, that's great. But if you don't have the confidence and the experience to be able to realize that your baby isn't perfect, the minute you just lay it on the table, then when people start messing with it and then suggesting different things, different ways to do stuff, you feel like they're telling you that what you did isn't really good enough, and you have to learn that that's not the case. It's just that everybody brings something more to the table, different perspective, a different set of knowledge. I mean, half the time what they're adding to the story is stuff that I wouldn't know about because it hasn't been printed anywhere yet. It hasn't been published. Nobody knows about it except the people who are in house.
Yeah.
So when they say, oh yeah, we're going to do this cool thing, why don't you play with that? Then it's like, oh yeah, that is cool. That really does fit. So I enjoy writing in the tie-in universe because of that. But it is a little harder. It's a little more difficult because you're not free to fall off in any direction you want to. You may say, oh, I think this would be really cool to explore and stuff, but because of what's happening in the larger universe or what they need you to accomplish with this book, you have to stay in the direction. And that's all part of the process. You really have to learn to be a team player when you write in a tie-in world.
Well, you guys have been doing a fantastic job
most of my life. Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
I'm sure it is. I mean, especially Alex Wakeford. He's sort of new to the team, but you've said yourself you've seen this transition. I'm sure he's a fun guy to work with. He seems like he's really entertaining, especially with those voices that he'll do when he's trying to read off of an excerpt.
Yeah. Yeah, he is fun to work with. He is, he's. I think it's a little. I'm not sure how he works since he's in England, and I can only imagine he gets up at midnight to work with the people in Seattle. But he adds a lot to the story. He brings a different perspective. It's nice to have somebody from a different country contributing too.
No, it's absolutely lovely. The team that you've gotten to work with has undoubtedly written incredible stuff, and all of your work has definitely gone in a fantastic direction. Which, speaking of your work, I think it's about time that we actually get down to the brass tacks and talk about Outcasts, because I mean, what a story. I mean, we're talking like a race against the clock. We're talking multiple factions all going against each other for one goal. A bunch of different players, a couple returning characters. There's all sorts of stuff that comes up in Outcasts, and it's sort of a great story, especially for someone who has read stories like Oblivion and Silent Storm. I know me personally, I kind of freaked out when I saw Kevarosi came back. I actually kind of lost it a little bit because he was so cool, and I was happy that he actually made it in.
Yeah, it's fun to include.
So when we're going into Outcasts, I actually do really want to know when you were going in to write the Arbiter and you're writing in all these other Sangheili characters and you're trying to not just add to this culture, but also structure it out, build it out, make it more robust than what we saw even in maybe Halo 5. I do really want to know if Sangheili is like one of those species that's just like top tier for you. If it's something that's like, of all these species that you've gotten to work with, if Sangheili has been an entertaining culture to work with and expand upon.
I love all my species. Yeah, you know, it's hard. It's hard to actually pick a fun one, you know, pick a favorite one, because when I started out with the Ferret series, I was working with Caster primarily, who of course is Rohani, and he was the first character that I had a good opportunity, who was an alien in the Halo universe, to actually spend some time with. And so I wrote him as being an interesting Rohani character based on what I knew about Rohani. And the Sangheili, I didn't really get to play with until a little bit later. And I think in my second and third book, I got to play with them a little bit. But you know, it was it's always interesting to take what's been done with characters, you know, because beforehand, and then kind of ask yourself, okay, why are they this way? Why did somebody write them this way? And what can I do to build on that, but at the same time make it my own?
Right.
You know, so I always go to, when I'm writing a character, first of all, the villain, Caster is technically a villain, but I always try to write the villains as though they're heroes. So that when I'm in their perspective writing them, I'm writing them as though they're the heroes. And I think that helps me understand who they are and give them realistic motivations and make them act, you know, they're not idiots doing something just because the hero needs them to make a mistake. You know, they're actually trying to accomplish their own goals. And I think when you try to look at your characters from that angle and get inside the skin and understand why they're doing what they're doing, and that they do it as noble in most cases, it makes it easier to write them as a three-dimensional character. So I guess, I mean, I did enjoy, to get back to your question, I kind of veered away, but to get back to your question, I really did enjoy writing the Sangheili characters, because I said this in an interview somewhere, but you know, everybody views Sangheili as these very strictly honor-bound characters. You know, they have this code of honor that they really don't like to violate, right? Well, if you know anything about anthropology and stuff, you would know that, like, warrior races don't develop a code of honor unless it's necessary, because nobody has had any honor beforehand. You know, they were backstabbing each other and stuff. And so what you have to realize about the Sangheili character is that code of honor is kind of an overcoat that's hiding what's really underneath. And when I wrote the Arbiter, I made him the guy who sees that and understands that and knows how to deal with it. And then some of the people who were the Sangheili that he was dealing with, who weren't quite so honorable. I mean, it's like, yeah, these are the guys. These are the reasons you need a code of honor.
Mhm.
Because if you don't have a code of honor, they're all going to stab you back the first time they get a chance. So that was, to me, a lot of fun about writing Sangheili.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, you're just writing along and you know something about their society that seems kind of cool, and then you kind of get an idea that builds off of that, and you get to play with it, and like to go with it, like the trysting eggs that we put in there, where the female send the male a secret trysting note that they want to tryst, and that turns out that that's a message that comes across. That's just one of those things that I need something to happen here. I need this thing to happen. How would they do it? And you get to play with that a little bit, and that's always fun.
Love it. Love it. I do really love how you approach that with making the villains a hero in their own right as well. Just thinking back to Cavarosi again, him and his crowd, how they would do anything for their gods. They would go against the Arbiter himself because he's clearly gone out of his mind. I mean, he's allowing female Kydons. Who does that? He's doing all sorts of stuff that would be considered absolutely terrible. And Cavarosi is willing to fight and die for his beliefs, and it makes it so that it made it so much more interesting with him as a character, because this wasn't just a dude who's evil for the sake of being evil. You're seeing how him and his people all consider him to be a character that is doing something that is good by his own right. One could even find themselves siding with him on certain things. So I absolutely love how you wrote him. But on the same note, I do also love how you wrote Ayumu, the Oath Warden.
He was a lot of fun, right?
Yeah, I bet. But I also do love how you wrote Ayumu, the Oath Warden, because you're talking about honor, and I mean, he thinks everybody has a shallow way of looking at honor. So yeah. I love how you wrote these characters. They all have such unique stuff that goes so far beyond what we have known the elites to be, which is all the deep voiced honor bound sort of species.
I mean, I think the Oath Warden is just the realest one amongst them. Yeah. Most realistic thinker.
Yeah, the Oath Warden is, to me, the pure Sangheili. He's the guy who gets down to he's the guy who kind of lets you know why you need a code of honor. Before they had one, they were all like,
Well, when I was reading, I could really see that line of thinking in your writing, because even the Arbiter's own Kydons, the entire time they had me tense, because I could feel they're just not sure about the way the Arbiter goes about things, and if it weren't for the honor code, they probably would have overthrown him by now.
Yeah, definitely. And even with the honor code, they've tried a couple of times.
Good old classic, assassination replacement style.
Got to get that Concert of Worlds, which I love that concept.
I was about to talk about that next. I was going to be like, okay, so we're stepping into the actual book content. So whoever's listening right now, if you haven't read this book, you need to stop right now and go read it, find it on Audible, do whatever it is you got to do. Find the freaking book. It's so good. So moving forward, Concert of Worlds. How many different terms did you have to go through to get to that genius way of putting together the way the Arbiter would see a conglomeration of species against Cortana?
Probably two different terms. I called it a confederacy in the outline, and I'm not sure. I think it was either Jeff or Jeremy came back and said, no, they wouldn't call it that. They'd call it a concert of worlds. So that came from 343, and I just adapted it, lifted it, and was glad claim credit.
That's lovely. That's lovely. Oh man, the whole term, that it's such a lovely way of seeing how the Arbiter would see how how Unity really is. It's a beautiful way of seeing it.
I couldn't help myself, but every time he said concert worlds in the book, I kind of would really picture him like raising his hands in the air and just like holding the world. It's a very preachy term, but I think that kind of works for what the Arbiter's trying to do. And I feel like it gets pointed out several times by other characters that is a bit naive, but like that's his dream.
Yeah, he is a bit preachy and naive, I think, as Atriox points out at the end, in his view of how the conglomeration of worlds is really going to work.
Yep.
Hey there, Halo fans. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back with our friends right after these messages.
And now in this story, I'm going to be kind of jumping around a little bit just because I have so many different things that I've been curious about. And I mean, I was reading it again today, and I had my notes out, and I just found myself getting scatterbrained, just writing out as many things as I could possibly think of because there's so many things I'd gotten curious about. For one thing, I noticed that you make several references to both a game and to a specific audio drama. I'm not exactly sure if I'm noticing it correctly, but in chapter 3, there's mention of a rogue journalist, and I'm kind of wondering if that was a nod to Hunt the Truth with Benjamin Giroux.
Oh, I can't remember the reference. It could well be a nod to it.
I do have the book somewhere near us over there.
Obviously, no Hunt the Truth. So.
Yeah, it's a fantastic story. I was very excited when it was mentioned because I'm like, I don't know any other rogue journalists in Halo's story. So if this is Ben, that's fantastic. Because the context, if it helps, basically they were talking about when the secrets of the Spartan 2s were leaked, and it was Benjamin Giroux who had done that rogue journalist who leaked the secrets of the Spartans. So when that was brought up,
so it probably was a direct reference.
Yeah, it's lovely.
I can't remember all the little details.
Well, and maybe this one will be a little bit easier to grab at. I don't know if you've played these games or if this was something that was just sort of in the notes somewhere. But at some point, there's a reference that not Atriox, but one of his underlings makes about what happened with Voridus on High Charity on the Ark with the Flood encounter. And
I played that game.
Ooh.
And I think that was probably all my idea. We had when we had talked about it, including Atriox.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember if they actually said bring that up or not, but when you talk about Atriox, if you go back to Shadows of Reach and then go back to the game,
mm-hmm.
you obviously know that they were some wonderful characters to explore. I had a lot of fun with the pair. I really did enjoy them because I typically have written Jural-Hani as so powerful and
mm-hmm.
Fierce Viking like culture and then you got these two screw ups. One of them's like your essential and the other one's like, oh my god, stop doing it. His brother just is like, if you were my brother, you'd be so fucking dead.
Yep, it's so accurate. It's so good. But on the topic of characters, I wanted to know, you have multiple characters show up from your previous works. I have already brought up Cavarosi, but you also have Roselle, who is now Rose, and these characters show back up. And I wanted to know, was this something that you had planned, or was this just, oh wait, I'm going to be taking them back to Netherop, maybe I can bring this back?
Well, with Roselle, what happened was I had written it without bringing her into the story.
Mm-hmm.
I had just kind of written it where where when they first came to me and said, we want you to do the initial thing they said to me was, we want you to do a book with the Ardor and Vale where they team up and, just find some reason for this to happen. And one thing that editors should probably have learned by now is, like, when you give me an open field like that, I'm going to run. So it was like, yeah. And are there any other restrictions? And they were foolish enough to say no. And so I said, okay, we're going back to Netherop. And so then I decided so that we could go back to Netherop, because I've been dying to go back to Netherop since I stranded Kavorisy there with name is escaping me, the human captain years ago, but I'd been just wanting to go back to Netherop and explore what had happened to them 30 years ago, and what they've been doing since then. And so when I wrote the deadline, they were like, yeah, that sounds pretty good. Now I'm going to put Atriox in it. It's like, what? Atriox has to be in it too? Yeah.
Sounds like you just got to open up the entire toy chest.
So we got all these characters in there, and I'm thinking, okay, I've got more characters in here, more big characters than I really know what to do with. Right? And I'm writing all of them, and I got them in and packed them in. And it actually kind of makes sense. And I'm writing through it, and I get about, I don't know, halfway through it, maybe a little bit more. And I'm like, it just doesn't feel right to be on Netherop without Roselle, and the cast-offs, the other cast-offs. And I was like, I'm going to have to bring her back in. And then I had my heart surgery. So it was like, I had just decided to do that when I found out, oh, wait a minute, you have to take 4 or 5 months off to go have a heart surgery. So we did it, and then I went, had the heart surgery, had one night, I was I've been in the hospital for, I don't know, 7 or 8 nights, and I was having trouble with something they call orthostatic hypotension, which is where whenever you stand up, you get dizzy and pass out.
Okay.
Just struggling with this. And I could feel that I was going in the wrong direction. I was getting weaker instead of stronger. I was like, man, this is not right. And that night, I fell asleep, and then, you're on all kinds of oxy and opioids and stuff to help you deal with the pain. So I had this vision, which actually turned into be chapter 17 of the Outcasts, where I was like, every place all at once kind of thing, right? And kind of these voices telling me, you have to decide, you have to, choose. And so it was like the next morning I got up, and it was like, okay, I'm going to deal with this problem. And, my orthostatic hypotension problem. And the way I'm going to deal with it is, in the mornings, I would usually not be quite as bad. So I was like, getting up in the morning, and I'm going to go take this walk and start doing these exercises that I need to do. And if you can have the people who are supposed to be there with me to make sure I don't fall on my butt there at that time, great. But if not, I'm all going to that all myself, And so they said, oh, no, we'll have somebody there. I got up and I said, all right, I feel good, I'm going. And like 10 minutes later, the person who needed to be there was there with me. And then I was out of the hospital 2 days later. So when I got back, I had kind of had this vision of Roselle doing what I did at that time. So that she ended up in the story in doing what she did, where she shows off and has the vision with the voices.
Yep. I was utterly fascinated by that, because I remember you first explaining that situation with Roselle and her condition way back at HCS, and I remember thinking, what kind of guy goes through something like that and thinks, I'm inspired. and goes and writes a wonderfully compelling aspect of a character using the struggles that they had gone through. It was utterly impressive to me. I had absolutely adored that, because it's so impressive. The fact that you just kind of went and did that. I'm a huge fan of that.
Yeah, it was one of those things where you had this out of body experience is what it really felt like.
Mm-hmm.
And then I wake up the next day and I do that. And when I get back home and I'm, starting to write again, it probably took me a couple of months before I could sit at the table
mm-hmm.
or at the desk and work for an hour. But it was like, yeah. And the more I was thinking about Roselle, I was like, yeah, that's going into the book, and that's what Roselle is going to be dealing with. I think I had decided before I went into the hospital that she had this prion disease,
mm-hmm.
and I decided after I came out of the hospital that she was cured of it by the voices. So
yeah, super good. I loved it. It was a lovely little piece. It was lovely. Other character that returns that I really wanted to talk about because she was awesome. That would be Petrov. It returns, makes a comeback. Yeah. A very shocking, sudden one, especially given how Arbiter pulls up and thinks everything is fine, and all of a sudden gets jumped basically.
Yeah. She was a fun character to write. The first time, and then when I brought her back, it was just like, you've got the image of the Sangheili in their own minds, especially being these tough, really ferocious warriors, got all the equipment and stuff, and for them to discover that they've been, have their asses kicked by a bunch of guys with sticks and clubs, human skinny guys. I thought that was both what would happen and appropriate, because that's when you get your butt kicked.
Mm-hmm. No, it was hilarious. It was such a fun time, especially since I love Petrov. Petrov was fantastic in that story, and I was so excited that she came back. I was excited that Caparossi came back. I was actually a smaller thing, but I recognized it and I knew that it was something that was important, so I went back and referenced it. Grim, Mama Bear. When that character's there, and it's and she's a daughter of what's her name? It's something, another bear.
There was Small Bear.
Yeah, Small Bear. That was
Small Bear. Her mom was Small Bear.
Yes, and I was so excited because I was sitting there because it was just exciting to me because I loved the Black Daggers. They were a fantastic inclusion, but that's me. That's a guy who has an unhealthy obsession with the ODSTs and how they operate, and so getting to have a very, very excellent story about them that has them going, hey,
you see my shirt today?
Yes, for everyone who can't see it, he has a whole shirt that has Rookie from ODST playing the sax.
We saw that same shirt a few times at Outpost Discovery.
Maybe he was one of them.
We could have looked right at him and not known it was him.
Oh gosh, it's so lovely. It's so hilarious. I love that. So yeah, seeing the Black Daggers return, I love them so much. They had so much character, and I loved that at least one of them was a recognizable member was still around. I was so down for that. Now going back to the Oath Wardens, I actually, the
daughter of a.
Sorry, what was that?
Yeah. Oh, I was saying that Grimbear was actually the daughter of one of the Black Daggers. That she wasn't. I don't think she was like Black Dagger herself.
Yeah, that's what I meant. It's like not really like them. I think the Black Daggers for the most part are kind of got the short end of the stick during that operation.
Yeah, they did.
Great story though. Great book. All of you should read that. So I do want to go back to the Oath Wardens just because they were, and he wasn't a fantastic inclusion. I love it anytime that there's an addition to the Sangheili structure, how they operate. It's sort of the same way. I don't know if you've gone too much into how we are right now, like where we are right now with story, but Jaga Ardamnai in Halo Infinite, who's an aristocrat, and so now we have aristocrat Sangheili, and so having all these different expansions, and then seeing the Oath Wardens basically kind of be their own warrior. I don't know if a cult is the right word for it, but a warrior culture of sorts. I mean, he's walking confidently into a meeting with the Arbiter, no weapons, and he's like, "I'm leaving on my own terms."
Yeah.
He's lovely.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I guess they're based on bounty hunters, but they're so much more than a bounty hunter.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, being a bounty hunter, you have to be willing to walk into some pretty rough places on your own and do some pretty scary stuff. And so that's part of the Oath Warden culture, but they've got a little bit more going on with them. I mean,
yeah,
they have a few tricks up their
I
sleeve.
was wondering if it was something that was, since you had worked on Star Wars in the past and you had written some fantastic stories for that franchise, I was kind of wondering if going into the Oath Wardens, if that was influenced by writings that you'd done alongside in the same universe that has bounty hunters. I myself have not gotten the honor of reading them, so I don't know if bounty hunters show up in them. But if they had, is that something that you think fed into the creation of the Oath Warden?
Well, not consciously. It might have, been some sort of unconscious thing. I mean, because obviously I wrote Boba Fett in a couple of small scenes.
Mm-hmm.
So he is part of my writing past, but I don't remember thinking, I think it would be cool to put a Star Wars bounty hunter in Halo.
Yeah.
I think it just felt to me that this was something that this was a way that a mechanism that the Sangheili would naturally develop before dealing with all of their honor, their honor code and their oaths and stuff. I mean, because obviously there are people that are betraying their oaths all the time, and there are people that Sangheili warriors that are going to make an oath they have no intention of keeping, and there's got to be a mechanism for how do you deal with it, and if you don't have a way to hire somebody to deal with it when the person who breaks his oath is stronger and has more military might than you do, you're kind of screwed. You have nothing to do. So the Oath Wardens kind of that equalizing a club that you can go and hire to make somebody do what they promise.
Mm-hmm.
Or make them pay if they don't. And it seemed that would be a natural part of their whole honor culture.
Mm-hmm. And I really like the kind of dynamic that Oath Wardens have in Sangheili culture, because I mean, from the vibes I got, is they're very important for the species, but also almost everyone else in Sangheili culture also has a very low opinion of them. So I'm just thinking of it's like you hire one, it's like, okay, go get my oath sealed, trash, like you filth, like, but I'll pay you.
Yeah, I like the irony of that. I've always enjoyed the irony of characters looking down their noses at people that they need.
Mm-hmm.
Oh no, that's great.
Yeah. And I think I only have a couple more things that I do want to dive into, because unfortunately we do have a limited time here. I wish we didn't. I would be asking questions all night if I had my opportunity. I do want to know, for fun, you have two different characters, two different types of characters. And so I'd imagine that you have perhaps some thoughts on this. Who do you think would win? Let's say a Oath Warden was given the job of taking out a Silent Shadow. Do you think the Silent Shadow would come out on top, or the Oath Warden?
That's a tough one. It's like the old saying that anybody can take out a black belt as long as they do it on the first punch. And I think it's going to be done with that. Is that whoever actually struck first is going to win, because both of those warriors are competent enough that they're going to give you a second chance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can see that. That's probably a pretty fair way of putting it, really.
Well, I feel like with Silent Shadow, they're very stuck to the honor bound codes, and Oath Wardens do not have such restrictions. So I mean, you just throw some poison gas in there is what an Oath Warden would do, and boom, payday.
Yeah, well, as long as that works the first time.
That is true. It's true.
He's not going to feel restricted in how he responds.
Oh gosh. Well, the last thing that I really wanted to touch on, the last thing I really wanted to identify and address in this book is probably actually my favorite part of the whole story, and it's something that I personally have wanted for very, very long time, and you actually fulfilled this desire with this story. The opportunity to have modern day humans, modern day Sangheili, run into the beginning of the war humans and beginning of the war covenant Sangheili. You have Petrov, who does not believe for a single second that the covenant is actually gone. You have Kevarosi that does not believe for a single second that this isn't just some human trick that somehow they've gotten together. And if they have, that's horrible. And even more so, you can see how our understanding of the story has changed, because Petrov is just completely mind blown by the domain, by the presence of the Forerunners. Like, she has no idea how to take any of that. And it's like, well, nowadays it's just normal. But comparing it to, let's say with us, if we were kids, if I was telling my child self about all the stuff that Halo has become, it would be mind blowing.
Yeah. I mean, that's really true. And that living in the time we do, I can see it in my own life. I mean, I was born before we had computers.
Mm-hmm.
Well, maybe not technically, room-sized things, but I was born in 1958, and the first computer I ever remember using was when I was probably a sophomore in high school.
Mm-hmm.
We did it with Chick. It was just a terminal that was attached to the main that communicated over the phone to a computer down the hill in Golden, Colorado, at the Colorado Mines School of Mines.
Mm-hmm.
And that was what a computer was when I was in high school. And the idea that I carry around in my pocket more computing power than it took to get us to the moon. You have no idea. I mean, it's like when I was a kid, the Dick Tracy watch.
Mm-hmm.
I'm wearing a Dick Tracy watch. It's just like all of the stuff that was science fiction is just unbelievably, it's happening. And, the nanotech, all of the stuff, I'm constantly amazed, especially when I read Halo. The first time I read Halo, I was like, some of this stuff is really pretty far out, these large bridges and stuff is just, it's like science fantasy. And then I started to research, read books about the future and what kind of technology they really expect to have happening, in the next 50 years. And I'm realizing it's too conservative. I mean, Halo is probably much more conservative than what will really be in 500 years. I'm not saying that we'll have faster than light travel. I'm pretty darn sure we're going to have nanotech and stuff that we just, that's just going to blow our minds now. I mean,
mm-hmm.
You will see things because I think you're younger than I am. But
you might be right.
Think by the time I'm gone, it's going to be pretty amazing what the difference is between when I'm gone and what you live to see.
Mm.
I mean, if you read the futurists and believe them, you might not actually have a biological clock that places a limit on your aging mechanism. They might have figured out how to stop that. Your DNA might stop, those little tails that get clipped off and make you age. They might be able to reverse that. It's going to be, the life is just going to be so different 50 years from now.
Mm-hmm.
Assuming we get past global warming. that little thing but yeah, but it's amazing to me. I just, every time I read Halo and I see something that seems so far out there and so, a little bit crazy, and it's like, no, that'll probably happen.
Well, it was one of the most fascinating parts about that book to read, and I'm so happy that you were able to include it, because it was just a fascinating read. But with all that being said, I do have one more thing that it's sort of a fun question, because it was also one of my favorite parts of the novel. This made James and I both laugh. You already know what I'm talking about, probably. We'll get there. You'll understand.
I know. I know what you're about to talk about. I had a question.
Oh, you have a question? Ask it, please.
This is related to what you were going to talk about.
Oh, okay. Then we'll get there. So first of all, way back at HCS, I had gotten a chance to get in that line to get stuff signed by Keith David, Jen Taylor, and Steve Downs. And I had Keith David sign my copy of Outcasts. And when I had done that, I decided to ask him if the Arbiter would have liked jazz. And because Keith does jazz and he does it very well, and he claimed, and Steve leaned over and said, well, yeah. And then Keith confirmed that he would play the saxophone. Now I'm wondering, now that he's obviously
physically possible,
now that this is all down to earth, now I'm wondering, do you think there's some sort of unwritten scene somewhere where Vale has to explain to the Arbiter who Sauron is and why he's not as big of a threat as he may believe?
No, I think that's something that Vale would just hold in her hip pocket and never ever explain to him.
See, I guess I didn't
probably let him wonder about that for the rest of his life.
Yeah, I guess for me it was not much of a question. It was more of a statement, and I just wanted to thank you for endearing moments like that with the Arbiter, because his internal monologues are so funny when he's like, because he's just so earnest about this Sauron. That sounds like such a great threat. I hope the humans didn't create him too.
Yes, and Arbiter is James's favorite character in Halo by far.
Yeah,
not even close. So when Outcast came out and we both saw, wait, Arbiter's a main character? Oh, he was all over it.
I
finished the book first, and that never happens.
Yes. Not only that, you read it in one day.
Yeah, it was a big privilege to write him out. It's a couple of times. One time when I found out I was going to write the Master Chief, Ed just sent me, he said, I've got news for you. And then he just sent me a picture of the Master Chief's helmet and in an email. And I didn't get it. I was like, all right, he's got big news for me. And it's like, what is he trying to tell me? And then it finally dawned on me. Oh, it's the Master Chief. so that was cool. And then they said, hey, we want you to write. The bad news is you don't get to write anymore. Not anymore, but the next book isn't going to be Blue Team, and it isn't going to be the ferrets and stuff. And it was like, the good news is it's going to be a certain Sangheili. And I was like, yeah, which one? It took me a couple of minutes to figure out that by a certain Sangheili, they meant the Sangheili.
Why can't they just tell you straight up? That sounds frustrating.
know. It's always they make me play these guessing games. I'm like, I don't know.
Well, sir, it's been a fantastic story. It was a lovely thing that you're able to write. I am curious though, before we wrap up, how is 2024 looking for you? Is there anything that's not that you have to tell us per se, but is there anything that you're working on this year that you're particularly excited about?
I'm working on something. It's not Halo, but I am excited about it.
Okay.
So. Yeah.
Sweet. We'll take that. We'll take that.
Yeah. But I can't talk about it yet.
Of course, no. And plus, it will just take the excuse, oh, that's not Halo related. Oh, I guess we can't talk about it. So, sir, it has been an absolute honor. It has been a pleasure. It has been a great time. I am going to read your book again. And I promise that if we ever get an opportunity to have you back on, I will have read The Ferrets. And so then I'm not left uninformed because I feel terrible. I want to have them read. It sucks so bad.
Yeah. The Ferrets were, I've really enjoyed writing the Ferrets, and they're special to me because I was able to bring those characters into the universe cold. They were kind of something that I didn't have, something I was able to introduce to the universe. Yeah, completely cold rather than just amplifying what they've already done before.
I'm already sold then, so that's fine. Yeah, I'm good. I'll read them. I already have them. I actually have them on a shelf right over here to the left, so I have them. They're here in physical form, so I'm gonna read them. I promise. I just got to get to it.
Okay, cool.
But yes, sir. Thank you so much for joining us again. And I hope that the rest of your evening is well. I hope that you get plenty of time to rest. We are going to be heading out.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for having me. It was a great pleasure.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for joining us again, sir. Hopefully we'll see it with your next writing.
Okay. All right. Bye.
Hey there, Halo fans. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back with our friends right after these messages.
We just interviewed Troy Denning. We're still on the air.
You guys did. You
guys did a good job.
Here's the thing. I wanted to chime in, but I couldn't say anything without feeling completely stupid because I'm not. Shadows of Reach interests me, but I am just simply not a book guy.
Read, motherfucker.
I know. I
maybe at the beginning of the interview, we should have framed you guys as had not read any of his books. So
uninformed but willing to learn.
so that way, it would have maybe felt more free to chime in because obviously.
Well, I didn't feel like I couldn't.
Yeah,
I just didn't want to because I mean, it's not that okay. Not that I didn't want to. It's just I felt like you guys were asking genuine educated questions. So how long have you been writing books? That's the extent of the questions I would ask. So I'm just I'm just gonna let James and Austin take this one.
I had one question I wanted to ask, and Austin, you basically asked it for me. I sat here. I'm like, well, there goes anything I could say.
All right. What was the question that you were going to ask?
It was something along the lines of adapting a novel into a video game or vice versa.
Yeah, that was my which one is worse, original writing or in-universe writing?
There's a good argument.
You basically threw
both.
that down. I'm like, there's anything I could say.
On one hand,
it didn't work every time, but anytime I wanted to chime in, I'd just kind of stare at Austin and go,
and it worked. It worked
half the time.
Yeah.
The other half, you didn't notice me.
Not that I didn't want to.
You should just tap me on my leg.
That would have probably been a better idea.
Probably.
But also the other time there was such a delay, I was scared of interrupting him.
Yeah, because dude, that
connection was choppy.
It was not me.
No, I
want to make that clear.
I had a feeling it was him when he was talking about his terrible Wi-Fi at the start of the interview. So I'm yeah, that checks out.
But now he's got Ethernet for his Xbox, and praise be.
What a guy.
What a fantastic
What a guy.
man.
He looks like an author.
Yeah.
I mean that in the most complimentary way possible.
For real,
Say,
though.
when I was
never
on,
saw what he looked
like the first, you had him pulled up on Halopedia. You scrolled right by him. I don't even think you realized it was him.
Probably not.
Like, the first 25 minutes, I was on Halopedia just reading about Shadows of Reach and all of his other books, and I'm like, you guys were just going. I'm like, okay, like anything I could ask, you guys are gonna cover with like 30 times more depth. So I'm like, I'm just gonna, a chime in with an occasional giggle.
I had a question.
To him about. I want to talk. I missed a question.
Dude, I was surprised how fast time was moving. You understand? We have been recording for an hour and 10 minutes.
Wow.
Like we were late and everything. We still got this much.
I feel bad. I wonder how long he was in the.
I don't know.
Well, here's the thing. When I checked the time when you said he was in the waiting room, it was 6:25. If he was there exactly at 6, he was in there for almost a half hour waiting.
He wasn't there exactly at 6.
Okay.
I know that because I was sitting here until 6:10 and there was no Troy has entered the room.
So maybe 15 minutes at most. It was 15
That's not
minutes.
terrible.
No, that's not.
He didn't
that
seem
bad.
too pressed.
No.
No. He did send me emails though. He was like, "Hey, I'm in the room. Where are you?"
No. What time did he send the email?
6:17. So he was only in there for like maybe 7 minutes.
Not even 10
8 minutes.
That's not bad.
Well, you got to think about the amount of time before he decided it's time to send an email.
Yeah. And speaking of, I'm emailing him now.
I'd say maybe 15. I'd say 15 minutes, give or take. It's not that big of a deal.
Sorry, Mr. Denning.
We love you. For real. You're such a good writer.
I wish I got to tell you about how good you write claustrophobic scenes.
Huh?
Because when they're in the tunnels on Nether,
Oh my gosh.
I'm literally like sitting
I
there
don't
like
that.
Yeah, no.
See, I get anxiety watching like
there's some elites that get buried alive.
I get anxiety like watching like cave exploration videos on YouTube, and I'm like, why is this in my recommended? Like, I have a fear of like tight spaces just as much of height, like as heights.
Shout out that one video, that guy just filming himself stuck in a cave. He's like, well, I think I bit off more than I could chew. It's like basically a goodbye video. This got really dark.
Horrifying. Wow.
He was on Netherop, I guess.
We like to have fun here.
I'm so happy that we got this. I'm so happy that I got this. Screw you guys.
I lived, by the way.
Yeah, I was happy to talk to Mr. Denning, dude. You probably saw me with my wide ass smile the whole time.
Yeah, your fucking leg wouldn't stop shaking.
I'm sorry, I was excited.
My microphone was literally going.
Hey, but at least you can't hear the bouncing anymore.
James is
Oh, come on,
shaking
that's
his mic.
cheating. You're
For those who
tapping
can't
on
see
it.
Huh?
What was that?
I was saying James is shaking his mic for those who can't see it.
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
So-
maybe you can hear it.
So, gentlemen, it's Q&A time. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I forgot.
I was not going to bring him into the Q&A because we can usually have some blindsiding. Oh my gosh, here's one now. Flyboy Pfeiffer asks, do people still believe in God in the Halo universe, or is it an entire society of godless heathens? There are Lutherans on Harvest.
Pretty sure Hood mentions God as well.
Yeah.
Maybe it was just like he says God help us all like at some point, but I mean that doesn't necessarily mean much.
Didn't Osiris think about saying a prayer, and then that's when Bugs
I figure if God can hear how scared I am, so can everyone else. Of course he can. He's God.
That doesn't mean
that doesn't mean everyone else can.
we're gonna ignore the shitty writing of Halo
But yes,
5.
I believe there's still people who believe in God. I mean, we fight a whole race of enemies that believe in gods.
Yeah.
So why couldn't there be humans who still believe in God?
Yep. And there were on Harvest.
We'll touch on that more next week on Bible study featuring the library.
The Lie Bible Study.
Oh my God.
I'm leaving.
This says the Bible.
You question
of the Master Chief.
Communist Vermins asks,
Kami. Okay.
Why is he a communist now?
I don't know. Do you think there should be a game similar to Reach in which you're playing as an elite against
Yes.
blue team?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep. Uh-huh.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Moving on.
All these games
We covered that.
we covered.
I was gonna say we covered this last week. If there's any type of like spin-off or additional content that adds to the lore and the history and the entire environment of Halo, the answer is going to be yes. Just don't ask. If you have an idea for a spin-off, just know we're all going to say yes. Didn't we have like 3 questions like that last week?
Yeah.
And we were like, yes.
What do you think
yes,
of what do you think of a
yes.
game but the elites
And
have
we're like, yes.
Yep. 2
Yep.
heads?
Yes. Yep.
Yep.
Two heads.
Yep.
2 heads.
2 heads.
2 heads.
Maybe 3.
Comrade Jespo Graham, what a great name, asks, I don't know if this was covered earlier, but I just finished Ghost of Onyx and was wondering, did Kurt train Noble Team and Noble 6? It seems like he would have if he trained all the Spartan 3s, but because Noble Team's a little different, I was wondering if he actually did so. You're not tossing that over to me, Shane, are you?
No.
Come on, answer the question.
I believe in you, Shane.
Listen, I will tell you if you're correct. Go ahead. No, go ahead. Fire it off.
I'm waiting.
No. No.
Listen, don't let there be dead air. Answer the question.
I don't know.
This is not a question. Listen, yes or no?
No.
Okay, you're wrong.
I don't know.
Wrong. You're totally wrong.
So here's the thing. Kurt trained a lot of the
He's wrong. That was terrible.
Kurt
He's wrong.
trained quite a bit of the Spartan 3s, almost all of them. So yes, he did train more than likely Noble Team, except one, George, because he's a 2. So
Jorge.
Yeah, Jorge. Mom.
Better get moving, Jorge. It's George.
It's George.
Stop talking back to me, Jorge.
That would be something that Mendez would do. Saiyan Rage Momag at Yalin asks, depending on when this gets asked, but how the boys feeling about the Browns next year? Can also mention the Patriots, James. Have y'all been to a football or college game?
I have been
Next question.
to. I'll answer.
Next question.
No,
next question.
shut up.
Oh, he said shut.
The quarterback situation's fun.
I'm cautiously optimistic. We had a great year, injured as hell. We're gonna get healthier. We're gonna get meaner. We got new offensive coordinator.
There's always next year.
I have a 2-2 record at Browns games that I've gone to. And yeah, I don't know what you want me to say about the Patriots. They're gonna continue to blow. I'm sorry. I mean, unless they start drafting actual players that aren't from
No Tom
Youngstown
Brady,
State.
No Belichick. You guys,
know.
Patriots are kind of chalked for at least a little while.
I think they'll actually get better next year. I'm not gonna lie.
I mean, they set the bar pretty low, so it's just like,
Improvement.
yeah. I mean, we have no room to talk, but
Lactating Milk MT parentheses Austin asks, what is the silent cartographer? I've heard that name go around a ton in Primordium, and I'm confused on who or what the book is referring to. Have you played Combat Evolved?
that is in the first game.
Yeah, there's a whole mission called the Silent. It's actually one of the most famous missions because it's great. The Silent Cartographer, my friend, is a map. It just shows you the topography and the map of the installation that it's on. That's why it's on all of the Halos, on Shield Worlds, on the Ark. It's everywhere. There's one on all
And
Foreigners.
fun mission.
And it just so happens to be quiet.
Thanks, Connor.
So, yeah. It looked like it took you guys a second. You're like, what is he? Oh,
Saiyan Rage Momega Yalin comes back once again, back at it again with Saiyan Rage, asks, how do you boys feel knowing this podcast has been the reason some people have gotten back to Halo?
it warms my heart.
Oh my gosh.
That actually makes me happy
Oh, man.
because I'm having trouble getting back into Halo myself right now. But
Man,
it's good to know that we're making other people.
I didn't think about that for a long time.
What?
That we actually are doing that?
Yeah,
Oh gosh.
it has crossed my mind on occasion while we've been doing this show. I'm like, yeah, there's probably people who are like actually coming back. Well, I forget who we had last week. He's like, I don't listen for the lore. I listen for your guys' banter. Who was that? Who did we have on last week?
That was Mass.
Mass. Yeah.
His name was just
Yeah, I
Mass.
would love to have heard it.
What? Oh yeah.
James didn't have a
We
working pair of
fixed it,
headphones.
gentlemen. That's why he could hear Mr. Denny.
Oh, that would have been fun.
Yeah.
Oh man.
I would have been like, Connor, give me your headset.
Yeah, for real.
Because it would have just been Austin monologuing.
Yeah, and I can do that.
Library episode 1. Let's go.
Season 1.
Hey, listen, guys. He talked a lot longer than I did.
I felt like for the most part it was equal. For
You're
the
equal.
most part. Thank you.
Aw.
Thank you.
That was touching.
Anyway, before we wrap up
You're
today,
equal to or greater than.
we need to address and identify and thank that we need to dress.
We need to dress.
We need to say hello to our patrons.
In the Benjamin tier, we have
in the what? The Benjamin? What'd you say?
Verse of the Benjamin.
In the $50 poet tier.
What? How did you butcher it that bad?
I like Benjamin.
We have.
It was a joke, Shane.
Dark
Benjamin
salad.
is slang for dab pen.
Yeah, no Sherlock. I know that. That's why I was confused why you said it. I'm like, what?
Dark Salad 42, Lactation of Regret / Mr. Shifter. Our $25 fabulous tiers, Dick Hammerbush. It's it's default for
You.
Damn, you made him close the window.
Oh, no.
Lactating Gator.
Say M.
Cool. Okay, now we're on to the wordsmiths. I'm getting distracted by you folks. Cool Blaze, Kyle Hooley, Last On Reactions, Mo Maggot Yallin, Spartan Habuko G156, and onto the sonarists, we have Addy, parentheses, criminal.
Criminal.
Dylan. And Garrus Vicarian, Lactating Milk MT, LPU Soldier, and Mass the Merc 664, and Perplexed Panic, and Potassium, and Preacher, and Lactation of Mercy, and Vermin. And then in our $5 Bellatrix tier, we have Brennan Pfeiffer, Eliza, JX O'Malley, Keith Geo77, Oddball here. And then in our bards, you guys are awesome. You have Aussie ODST, Damian Groth, Dragon Eye, Drew Ledbetter, Hayden Hamilton. It's default 2.0. He did it twice to get the bard tier.
Can he just upgrade?
No, here's the thing. Bards get special treatment.
But can he just is bard?
Bard is quite literally like you don't get the bard stuff unless you're a bard. There's like exclusive things that we give to. There's only 20 seats available.
Oh,
Yeah.
I was going to say that's weird. That's random as hell.
No,
It shows how informed I am on our Patreon.
You should give it a read. We have a lot of stuff we give these people.
My love. That goes to all tiers.
You have our love.
Goes to all tiers. Jacob Adlam, Pity 104, Tyler Neal, Wraith X3TN, and then our $1 penman. We have Keegan and Ungoy Food Nipple, no longer alone. So thank you guys for being supporters. It helps us a lot. It helps us do things like talk to Troy Dene, which is still blowing my mind that this has happened.
Done without you all.
Couldn't have done it without you.
Couldn't have done it without you all.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, so folks, if you want to join our community, if you want to talk to Troy Denning, he's not in our Discord. You can go to discord.gg/JumperScape.
So he's be cool if he was, but
discord.gg/JumperScape. He probably doesn't know how Discord works.
No, probably not.
But that's fine.
It is. I mean, he can still join.
That's true. I mean, I could just, next time I see him, just like, hey, let me see your phone.
at HCS, be like, hey, let me see your phone.
I would love if he can
let me just
again.
Yeah, let me just put you in this group chat in Discord full of degenerates. Why is there a bunch of people with the name of lactating? He's just,
I would not want Mr. Denning to see the lactate.
No.
Dude, someone who is not caught up on our show joined our Discord and was so confused as to why there were so many people with the name lactation.
I mean, I don't even get it. I don't think we fully grasp
What's
it.
even funnier is the lactators joined and they're like, yeah, we don't know. We don't know why either.
We don't know why. I think we just showed genuine disgust for like 2 episodes. We're like, oh, we just got to run with it.
Gator is at fault for all of this.
Patient zero.
Yeah.
All that happened
What a
was
guy.
we read his name and it caught us all up.
We were all like, wow, we laughed for like 10 minutes. We were like, that's really gross. And then just like people just every week there was just another one and another and another and
one. Another one.
All right, bro. It's not 2017.
I like Lactating Gator's quote. I only had a username. I had a username or something along the lines of that.
And
all he did.
if you want to support us directly, though, beyond just joining our community, because it's really helpful. It helps us do things like talk to Troy Denning. It's a good selling point now. God,
Grow up. Be a professional.
I am a professional.
Whoa, dude.
I'm a professional talker. I guess anyway. Patreon.com/JumperScape. you can support us there. Or if you don't want to get to the nitty gritty and dedicate all of that, you can go to ko-fi.com/JumperScape. I guess Ko-fi, however you want to say that. That helps us with many things. If you want to see all the stuff that we're working on, then that's all happening in the Discord. There is going to be a roadmap coming out probably next week. So,
It's something.
Yeah, it's going to be long. It's a long video. I did not realize that we were doing so much this year, but we're doing quite a bit this year. Speaking of things that I'm doing quite a bit of, is Shane. I heard back from James Burns. Thank you so much for listening to everybody. If you want to see us next week, you can go to right here next week again.
Yeah.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Leave me alone forever.
See you.
The library was produced and published by JumperScape Audio. Funding was provided by our fantastic patrons on Patreon. If you enjoy the show and wish to support JumperScape's future projects or get some sweet benefits, join our Patreon at patreon.com/JumperScape or become part of this truly special community at discord.gg/JumperScape. Thank you for your listenership, and we hope you enjoyed.